Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. We have a fantastic webinar for you this afternoon on the Earned Growth Advantage, your path to profitable growth. And we have some phenomenal experts joining us today to talk about this who really have lived and breathed this over a long period of time. Two of them are here already. Amanda, our third, is about to join us shortly, but I'll briefly introduce Fred and Darren, and then we'll start talking about earned growth, and then Amanda can join us to talk more about some of the implementation challenges that she's experienced over time. One bit of housekeeping: we will try and have time for questions at the end. If you have any questions as we're going through this, please add them in the questions tab, which should be to the bottom right of your screen. You can add them at any point, and then we will go to questions at the end of the discussion. I mentioned that we had some renowned experts. Let me first introduce Fred Reichheld. Fred Reichheld is the creator of the Net Promoter Score and Net Promoter System. He is an authority on customer loyalty and business growth. A fellow at Bain & Company, Fred has dedicated his entire career to helping companies turn customer advocacy into a competitive advantage. So much so that The Economist once referred to him as the high priest of the loyalty cult. It looks like you're wearing that priest-like outfit today, Fred. Very good. His latest work focuses on earned growth, a powerful new metric linking customer happiness to sustainable business performance. Fred, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Our other guest speaker is Darren Loveday, who's the Chief Growth Officer at MentionMe, a referral marketing platform that helps brands harness the power of customer advocacy. With a career focused on commercial growth, customer engagement, and data-driven marketing, Darren is at the forefront of helping companies understand and unlock earned growth through smarter relationship building strategies. Darren, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Andy. Although it feels like a little bit of a After the Lord Mayor's show when you've been introduced after Fred Reichheld. But,
you are both equally impressive, just in different ways, Darren. And I'll introduce Amanda as and when she joins. But Fred, I think a great starting point for this conversation is just understanding earned growth. Can you briefly introduce the concept and explain why it's becoming a critical metric for businesses today?
Earned growth is really the next step in the Net Promoter revolution. Net Promoter started. I should go one step before Net Promoter. What all of this is based on is loyalty economics. That when you treat customers so they come back for more and bring their friends, that is the right way to grow a profitable, sustainable business. We initially were focusing on retention rates as the summary statistic of how long a customer stayed with you as the best estimate of loyalty, but it turned out that wasn't good enough, timely enough. So we evolved to the survey-based Net Promoter Score, creating promoters and detractors, and how likely is to recommend this to a friend. That worked for 10 or 15 years, and the philosophy still works and will always work because it's based on this ancient wisdom of, treat people right and they're going to spread. When they feel the love, they want that for their friends. They refer it. But surveys have been abused by so many people, and a system, the Net Promoter System, that was too dependent on surveys needed a signal-based, behavior-based way to implement it and track progress. And that's where earned growth came from. It's just simply taking the original idea. You win when you treat customers so they come back for more and bring their friends. Well, instead of getting surveys to estimate that, let's keep track of how much repeat purchase and referral there is, and use those true signals as the way of measuring progress and understanding the economics of investing to delight customers and earn their loyalty. So earned growth is defined as net revenue retention rate, or net revenue retention, the business that you get, your revenues you get from customers who were with you last year, plus, now that's net of defections and net of declines. So it's that net revenue retention plus new business that is coming through referrals. That's the earned part of your revenue equation. The bought part are promotions and gimmicks and advertising and the ways that you sort of invest to buy new customers. And what we're learning is that bought growth is usually not profitable. It's not nearly as profitable as earned growth. But the biggest surprise, you and I have been working together, Andy, on, I originally thought that the core of earned growth was the net revenue retention. I mean, heavens, it's just your current book of customers and repeating and expanding their purchases. That's got to be the most important factor in growing a business. But as we've used your data at Mention Me, we're starting to see that actually a bigger part of your revenue growth comes through referrals. And that I always thought referrals was the pure signal. It's timely. It's the right North Star, but probably harder to measure and maybe not quite as big in the short term as net revenue retention. I'm coming to a different point of view, and that in fact, as we learn how to track and understand referrals, first generation, second, the whole chain reaction of referrals, that is actually the dominant driver of profitable growth.
And you wrote the book Winning on Purpose and the Harvard Business Review article, which I think was titled NPS 3.0, both of which are fabulous reads. And the NPS 3.0 is very accessible, available free online if you haven't read it. That was probably 3 years ago. Like, you talked about one of the things that's changed in your thinking then, that actually of the two sides of this equation, referral is more important. Like, what else have you been learning over the last couple of years around earned growth, and either the challenges to implement it, the way it's been implemented, like what we're seeing from the data? What are the most interesting things that you've been learning since that's been out?
Well, we're running into some of the same challenges that we did at the beginning of Net Promoter. Net Promoter was an idea. When I conceived that, it was a little bit based on something I saw being done at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, but modified it, tried to make it universal. But it wasn't being done by hundreds of companies. It was, just the guy invented it as a good idea. And getting people to try it was very hard until some technology companies made it easy to ping customers with email survey requests and to gather that in a thoughtful way and keep the information linked to that customer and to not over survey the same customers, all the basics. And once that technology was available, one of the early ones was Medallia, which was used by Apple, and then Qualtrics and others. When that happened, Net Promoter exploded in adoption. But we're waiting for that to happen. Your work at Mention Me is starting to open up the referral door, but there are not companies yet who make it really easy for a company, a client, to keep track of their net revenue retention in bite-sized chunks and keep it linked to individual customers and individual departments who are responsible for that. And so we need more technological adoption to make it easy for people to implement earned growth.
That makes a lot of sense. And Darren, maybe you can help us here. I think those people on the call who know Mention Me will know us as a referral marketing platform. Can you help us join the dots between a referral marketing platform and earned growth?
Yeah, of course. Well, look, for us, I think we look at referral as an act of advocacy, and we believe in the authenticity of acquisition that comes when you build advocates, when you have advocacy. In reality, what we've actually done is we're a platform that integrates earned growth. So we track and we measure earned growth on behalf of our customers. So both elements of earned growth, whether it's the net revenue retention or the amount of customer acquisition that's driven through organic means as opposed to paid, we track that natively in the platform. And that's a great position to be in, because we're tracking earned growth scores for, I think, nearly 60 customers now. We see a range of earned growth scores. So we see some where that earned growth score is kind of building, but it kind of, in double digits only, not in the range that you want to get to. But what we do see is a strong correlation between not only earned growth and overall growth, meaning that where we see positive or increasing earned growth, we often see that overall growth of the company, but we're also seeing the same correlation to profitable growth as well. And that makes sense, right? Because one of the foundational pieces around earned growth, Fred, I think, is the compound effect. So if people are being treated well, they get a great service, they like the products that you sell, they like the the way that you're treated as an individual, they tell their friends, they come back for more, and that keeps going. So even if it's perhaps not, more of a durable purchase like a mattress or something, it doesn't matter if it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years after that purchase. When your friend is saying to you, I need to change my mattress, I've got a bad back, or it's time, your first thought is going to be, well, actually, let me tell you where I brought my last mattress from, because it was a fantastic company, and I'd still talk about them. So you get that year-on-year compound effect as well.
That's a really nice way of thinking about it. And when we take it down a level and make it more tangible, like this webinar is a partnership between Bloomreach and Mention Me, and so some of the audience will be Bloomreach customers, some will be Mention Me customers, and some will be both. But what Bloomreach has been doing around personalization and trying to build customer relationships at scale feels like that fits really importantly into how do you treat customers in a way that drives up earned growth. Yeah, Fred, I know when we've spoken in the past, you've mentioned like some of your dissatisfaction with the way people use the phrase personalization. Like, why do you get frustrated by that phrase, and what in your mind should personalization be?
Well, personalization is a lovely thing, but I've seen it used in a marketing sense that, instead of saying "Dear Sir," you say "Dear Fred," or the closing is from a person as opposed to a sort of superficial customization. I think the brilliant power of I'd use a different name if I could come up with it, but let's call it, a customized approach to dealing with every customer as a unique person. It's not just the marketing to them to make them feel like you know who they are and you care about them. It's keeping track of their behaviors one by one and not clustering them into accounting aggregate pools where you lose the insight about a referred customer is, far more profitable than a customer from another channel, because after, the accountants don't keep it personalized. And if the marketing department is the only one doing the personalization, you're not going to get the economic insights that will drive the accounting department to let you invest in delighting more customers and earning their loyalty.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think when Bloomreach talk about it, Amanda's very thoughtful in talking about how it's about building customer relationships at scale, so that you actually have relationships rather than superficial changing of a sir to a name. Like Darren, you have lots of experience of working with many clients in this world. Like, have you seen any customers build and manage customer relationships like by the thousand at scale?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things I'll add in also as well. I remember when I spoke with Amanda originally, probably 6 months back, and we were talking about earned growth, and it really resonated with me how much Amanda understood it herself. And you're right, Andy, that I think there's an industry that talks about personalization as a means to sell another widget, right? We're personalized, to your point, Fred, we'll personalize it by saying, "Dear Fred," and surely that will make Fred buy something else. And it's a distorted view of the world, and it's not one that Bloomreach have. Amanda and the team at Bloomreach are very much trying to use this to build relationships. If we can keep identifying who the person is and be relevant, contextually relevant, be personal to that individual, then that builds the relationship, it builds the loyalty, it builds the higher customer lifetime values. What's interesting is I mentioned earlier around the correlation between earned growth and then both overall business growth and profitable growth. We're obviously a partner with Bloomreach. We have a fabulous joint value proposition between us that's not just based on, hey, look, we've both got tech, let's introduce our technologies to our customers, or to each other's technologies to our customers, but it's more on what it actually does for the business. And at the core of that, if you think about it through the lens of earned growth, right? So Mention Me are great at authentic acquisition, whether that's referral now and increasingly growing to be more around influencers and ambassadors. There's still an authenticity of that acquisition. The view is, if you acquire customers like that and treat them really well, then you get more loyal customers, and therefore your earned growth goes up because they tell their friends and they come back for more. It's that middle bit that Bloomreach do really well, and that's where personalization comes in. So that joint value prop is very much around saying, okay, well, we can acquire the customer that's got that predisposition to trust the brand, to be a great customer. And we see that all the time in higher average order values, in repeat purchase rates, in the propensity for that person to then refer someone else as well. But what's great, and Amanda's joined at the perfect time, we then are dependent on the brand treating that individual well on an ongoing basis. And that's where Bloomreach absolutely excel through personalization. So we actually also see a strong correlation between higher earned growth scores, remember, that map to organic growth and overall business growth and profitable growth, but also to personalization, which is really interesting, right? Acquire the customer with a predisposition to trust the brand, service them properly, treat them as an individual, build that relationship, positive earned growth scores, and therefore positive overall business growth scores. Andy, I've talked around the question. When I think about a shared customer, though, Bloomreach and Mention Me work with a music and entertainment retailer. Used to be very big on the high street, but they've kind of re-established themselves. So this retailer offers actually quite a diverse range of physical media, such as movies, games, related merchandise. Some of the product suites that they have are kind of somewhat niche. It could be related to some niche cohorts like sci-fi, anime, whatever that is. And they actually do an excellent job of managing those relationships across a number of these kind of quite diverse, almost niche cohorts at scale by just understanding their preferences, right? There's no point talking to someone who buys, every movie in the Star Wars and Star Trek movie genres, talking to them about another movie that's just come out, like a Barbie or something. Don't know why that one popped into my head. Not actually seen it myself. I'm gonna live to regret that, aren't I? But they do that really well because they're understanding the acquisition point and managing those relationships through using personalization and segmentation.
Great. That's a really nice example. Thank you. And Amanda, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Before we jump to you, we've been talking just around earned growth and started to get into how personalization and building better relationships with customers can drive earned growth. But let me briefly introduce you so that everyone on the call knows who you are. So Amanda is the Chief Marketing Officer at Bloomreach, a leading digital experience platform that helps brands deliver personalized, data-driven experiences across every touch point. And at Bloomreach, Amanda leads the company's global marketing strategy across brand, demand generation, and customer experience. With a passion for customer-centric growth, Amanda brings deep expertise in building meaningful digital relationships at scale and how the smartest brands are redefining what it means to truly serve their customers. So it's great to have you with us today, Amanda. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
I think that we've talked around it a bit, but that deep customer relationships at scale is the thing that feels like it's been the holy grail of marketing for a while. We've been struggling to get there, but it feels like technology is letting us get closer and closer. Like, what does it mean to you, and how do you think about it in terms of actually achieving that these days?
Yeah, relationships in the human sense are very much built on, I learned something about you and I remember that the next time I meet you. For example, we'll probably remember forever that I joined a webinar 20 minutes late. And if we forget that context, the next time we talk to each other, it's weird because we had this experience together. I knew something about you. I apply it conversationally. But to have no context of that in a conversation is a little bit like either you don't care about me or there's something wrong with with potentially your memory. So in the same sense, the way that you build relationships digitally is remembering information that I've shared about myself with you and using it to personalize that experience with me. And obviously we talk a lot about the line of creepy, because if I haven't told you, for example, my child's name or my address or something, and you use that information to personalize, that is not personalization. That's just creepy. And so I think the reality is that technology from a database perspective has been really difficult to take this vast amount of data and consistently apply it in personalized ways without a tremendous amount of workflows and workarounds built by a marketing organization. And now that has dramatically changed with what we're seeing in AI.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then what we're talking about today, and where Fred has given us a lot of background up front, is on earned growth and the earned growth advantage. Like, why are you personally interested in earned growth as a metric? And what role do you see it playing for marketers who are taking that kind of relationship first approach?
Yeah, and I'm sure Fred waxed eloquent about the values of earned growth, and I think we all inherently know that a customer referring other customers is going to be the best way to grow our business. But our job is to create repeatable, scalable, and trackable or attributable methodologies so that we partly as marketers validate our reason for existence, but then also because we need to know that those leading indicators are going to have some kind of outcome for business growth. And so what I love about earned growth is that we have the potential for a metric to actually say, are we doing the right things that will result in an end outcome of business growth? And we're able to assign some values as business leaders to doing the right things for our customers that will, potentially, hopefully lead to referral business, which we know is more profitable. We know the customers stay longer. We know that, our customer acquisition costs are lower when we've got a strong word of mouth program.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Fred, maybe you can come in there, because I think a lot of your thinking has been like what that chain of value looks like, the link between customer advocacy, earned growth, and long-term business success. Like, how do you think about that now?
Well, I think I'm a gardener. I spend a lot of my time. One of the reasons I come over to see Andy in England is I love to see the British gardens, and this topic is very relevant, because what most marketing today or up until now has been, it really hasn't known the difference or cared the difference between ephemerals, those little flowers that come up for a week or two and bloom and then go and disappear, and perennials, things that come back every year, and if they're healthy and happy, they spread and can take over acres and acres. Marketing just wants to get a plant, the cheapest plant the customer can get, or the cheapest increase in spend it can get, and not know whether it's an ephemeral that's going to have to be replaced with expensive acquisition and marketing and advertising, or whether it's a perennial, an investment in a relationship that will grow and prosper and become the foundation of a long-term sustainable juggernaut. And right now, so much of the SG&A is focused on ephemerals or ephemeral boosts in spending, promotions, discounts, advertising, and companies just don't even know yet whether it's an ephemeral or perennial. And I think this idea of earned growth is just saying ephemerals don't get you anywhere. They might help you meet your KPI this quarter and get your bonus. It'll show you've boosted the number of customers or the amount of revenues. But if those revenues are not a foundation, it's not a perennial repeat loyal relationship, it really never pays off in cash, in EBITDA or profits. So I think the brilliant upside here, and I see the power of Bloomreach and Mention Me helping solve this, is we need to be able to personalize and customize to the customer and act as if we know them and we didn't forget, and are refining our ability to offer things of great value. But at the same time, we have to be able to link it to the cash flows that they create, the costs and the profits and the cash. And so operating as an independent marketing group, you're not going to get nearly the support that you deserve in generating earned growth as you would if the accountants knew how incredibly valuable it is to earn more growth and not waste your money on ephemerals.
I love that metaphor, Fred. I've not heard that one before, and it absolutely resonates. And please tell me it was the name Bloomreach that made you think of that wonderful metaphor.
It actually was. I hadn't thought of that analogy until I was looking at Amanda on the screen with.
That is a wonderful metaphor. Let's take that and look at an example. Darren, you're great for the examples here. Let's take one of our mutual clients, Brompton, and how are brands like Brompton using earned growth and the philosophy behind it to see the success that they're seeing?
Yeah, well, I'll start with a data point because this will really touch on what you just said, Fred. And again, the metaphor is brilliant. Never heard that one. They say they've got a plus 78% difference in customer lifetime value score for a referred customer, who I believe will be a perennial in that metaphor, over a non-referred customer. Now that's a brilliant number, right? Plus 78%. But it's even more interesting when you think about Brompton. For those that don't know them, are a very traditional, steeped in heritage British bike manufacturer. I think they're celebrating their 50th year this year. They have a very loyal customer base. It's actually a fold-up bike. I think, Andy, you use a Brompton yourself.
I am the most loyal Brompton user you'd know. We
see it in the office regularly. So if you think about it, the first purchase is often the same for everyone. It's a bike. And it's not a consumable product. It's a durable product. So to think that even after that very similar first purchase for their customer base, that referred customers can have a 78% higher customer lifetime value is phenomenal, actually. But when you dig into that brand a little bit more, like I say, they're celebrating their 50th anniversary. Their whole strategy is based on community, referral, influencer, because they understand that they've got these amazing cohorts of advocates. They have independent communities of customers that arrange privately, again, completely independently. They arrange privately bike meetups where they will host their community. They will meet up outside of a physical store often, or a typical place like a park, and they will have large convoys, if you like, of Brompton riders that will go on a cycle ride for 20 or 30 miles. And they're doing this irrespective of the brand. So Brompton have really kind of lent into this, and they've hired roles such as community manager. They've got a brilliant US-based community manager whose role it really is to kind of reach these independent communities and bring them right inside the Brompton family, to actually deliver value, but in a way that they're able to leverage that advocacy as well and just keep growing. So very much thinking around earned growth, very much thinking around the service and the positioning of the product in the first place to grow that advocacy and then grow the business on the back of it. So really, really interesting. They're also a customer that over-indexes in terms of the amount of personalization that they deliver through Bloomreach as well. So you can see how all the different elements of the strategy come together in such a clever way.
Yeah, that's a great example. Thank you very much. I think hopefully everyone watching is bought into the value of earned growth as a metric and why it's so important. I think the challenge often then comes in the implementation. Amanda, from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges for marketers in building meaningful relationships with millions of customers simultaneously in a way that you need to do in order to drive that earned growth up?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest challenges obviously is data. So what is the data that I'm actually going to capture about my customer? How do I use it? How do I connect it to my marketing messages? And when you think about the life of a marketer, absolutely, our jobs often are not tied to long-term sustainable business growth. I can't even say the words. They are tied very much to those ephemeral quick hits, and we are, as humans, incentivized to meet our goals and our objectives. And when you look at the life of a marketer, 2 to 3 years at a company, they're not typically there to help build great, long-lasting brands. And so when you think about the KPIs of a marketing organization, the data that they have access to from a customer perspective, and then, if I may say, the lack of resourcing that often goes into the data analytics and the more science side of marketing to actually give them the resources to do personalization at scale. It's the ultimate trifecta for do do what I can do with the resource that I can do to get, the slight percent increase that I need to get in order to get that conversion on revenue. And I think that often the KPI infrastructure and the way that marketing is thought about it as a cost center in businesses are really what hold us back from thinking about the customer and not thinking about marketing from a promotions perspective to drive revenue this month, this week, this day, but really how do we create better relationships with customers and incentivize and build a team around that objective.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And certainly when we're working with clients on earned growth, you cannot have earned growth just in the marketing team. You need the finance team brought into it, because so much of it is about working to identify the customers who have the true long-term value, but that isn't always immediate from the way the data is analysed by the finance team today. Fred, you've talked a lot about this, but the idea of recognising and rewarding customer advocacy, why do you see that as being so important? And how do you think about the value that actually comes from those referrals?
I think Amanda's point that the typical marketer hops from job to job every 2 to 3 years is astonishingly important to this. And why is that? And why? And I think that exacerbates the obsession with short-term ephemeral advances. It's also one of the reasons I think marketing has been pushed downward in importance in many organizations, where the CMO used to be a close colleague of the CEO and get involved in strategic decisions. In many organizations, I see that drifting downward, where it's more of a tactical role. And why is that? Because I don't think it's as connected to the core EBITDA cash flow generation that's demanded by investors. And so the KPI of the CEO is usually EBITDA related or share price related. The EBITDA the KPI of the marketer that drifts away from that is less relevant to the place who's making the big investment decisions. What's the solution? I think you have to team up with the finance group to show that you're having more than an ephemeral impact, that when you do it right and you earn growth, this is a perennial. It is a compound interest, an exponential phenomenon that is the core of building a long-term prosperous business. And I think if you do that, the marketing jobs are no longer going to be 2 or 3 years in duration. They're going to be very long-term, because those who understand how to earn growth are layering on this rock foundation on which future years can be built. But it's not marketing alone. It's a combination. It's data science, yes, connected to the financials of the business, and then also certainly to the experiments you're doing with marketing personalization, to know not just what brings in revenue, but what brings in the perennial revenue that is so important to the future of the business.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that point, I think you can always tell the difference of a marketer that's bought into the business. I mean, I at this point definitely bleed Bloomreach yellow. I have an unhealthy work-life balance because I think Bloomreach is my 4th child. But there's this kind of unhealthy obsession. There's this belief in what you're doing, and I think about one of our customers, Meenakshi's the CEO there, and she has built this incredible team that believes in what they're doing. And it's actually a floral company. So it goes very, very well along with these analogies that we're talking about. And they believe in creating these beautiful moments. They believe in connecting local florists with customers in their regions and in their areas. They've actually even come up with a subscription model because they had so many people who were consistently buying their floral products. And when you meet their team and the marketers on their team, they don't sound or talk like marketers. They deeply understand and care about their customers and are constantly thinking about ways and that marketing team, they've been there for years and years. And so when you think about somebody moving beyond marketing and really investing in the business and being part of, let's call it the founding team, even your own objectives change. You as an individual are no longer worried about your core. You are building a business. And so I think if I could encourage marketers to do anything, it's take ownership and move beyond those quarterly objectives and really get invested in the business. And if you can't do it where you are, join a company where you can, because then you can be that evangelist for customers to also feel like they have ownership in the brand that you're working with.
That is definitely good advice. That's probably a nice leaping off point to look forward. Like, I think we are where we are today, but things are going to change immeasurably over the next 5 to 10 years in marketing as in the world. Like, Fred, how do you see earned growth playing a role in where things go over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I am increasingly impressed with the importance of referral. When I invented this earned growth concept, I presumed that net revenue retention, repeat and expanded purchase to your current basic customers, was the lion's share. That's where the real importance was. And then referrals was an important signal, very timely, very valuable, but not nearly as important as net revenue retention. Let's get practical. But the data I've seen from Mention Me and elsewhere now says I had it wrong. Referrals is actually the core of your success, and that's where growth comes from. You think each individual customer you have, they only have a finite amount of extra need for that product or service you have. You can't get infinite growth from your existing customers. Growth comes from this compounding of them referring a friend who then refers another friend or another friend. And as you can track that and not just talk about an idea, but actually see it in a scientific financial way that accountants can relate to, that's where the future is. So I think what I see is companies needing to understand that compounding exponential phenomenon and to then build systems to track and optimize it. And that over time, that ancient wisdom from Proverbs, King Solomon, I guess, that a good name is worth more than silver or gold. That's the truth in business. Our accountants don't track it. So we're out there chasing ephemerals, which is not a very profitable way to spend a life.
That is a very nice way of summing it up. Amanda, from your perspective, like, how do you see marketing changing over the next 5 years or so?
Well, marketing, and I post about this on LinkedIn, so it shouldn't be shocking, but I do think marketing as a function is primarily going to go away. I don't think we're going to have the marketing role as it exists today. I don't think the remit of those of us who have called ourselves marketers will be limited to the channels and the ways that we've engaged with customers in the past. I do think it is going to evolve into a much more business-oriented role, because a lot of the functions of systems integration and data analytics and how do I actually build segmentation and communicate with my customers will be able to be done autonomously. I think what that also gives us an opportunity to do is to reinvent ourselves, to be more connected to the business and to be building brands that customers love. And I think it gives us the opportunity to, when we think about these customer relationships and customer engagements, AI is going to be prevalent. So what will the differentiator be? It should be earned growth. It should be customers who are saying, I love this product in this company so much, and I get so much value out of my experience with them that I'm going to put my reputation on the line to refer them to my friends and my family. And that is going to carry so much more weight in a world in which data and automation and personalization, for the large part, can be done by anybody.
That makes a lot of sense. And one thing that AI cannot do is refer from one friend to another. That has to be between two individuals. So
yeah, we'll see.
Darren, what about for those people who are just getting started and starting to think about earned growth and want to start that journey into earned growth and customer advocacy? How would you advise them to do that?
Yeah, a very practical nature. But before I get into that, I mean, firstly, I'm going to thank Amanda and Fred, because you've made me rethink even the questions that I ask marketing when meaning marketing at my customers, at my prospects. I often ask, what are your KPIs? What makes you successful? But I think I'm asking the wrong question. I think I should be asking, what should your KPIs be? And starting to actually inject into that. So that's really interesting. Look, I think it feels like there's two things, Andy. The first one is, if you're going down this route, what is your appetite for challenging the status quo and thinking about your KPIs differently, knowing that this is a longer term, overall compound interest growth play, as opposed to those ephemerals. Can we get a few more customers on the board that are going to buy once and then disappear? Aside to that, if you're not tracking any of this advocacy through surveys, through referral programs, it's kind of almost pointless, right? You can't optimize it. You can't double down on it. You can't actually build a strategy on it. You're hoping that it persists and perseveres and keeps going, but you can't do anything with it. So fundamentally, you need to start tracking it. That maps a little bit to Amanda's point about data, but I'm a big believer in data. You've got to start tracking it. Then it's a question of learning. Why are your customers referring? What are they saying about you when they refer? Are they praising your service, your products? Is it both? Is it your positioning around sustainability pieces? All of those things will build that advocacy. And once you know who's advocating, how they're advocating, why they're advocating, then you can really harness it and start to build it into your strategy.
Great. Very good, Darren. I think we've got time for one question. I'm just looking at the questions that have come in. Maybe let's go for, hopefully you've got time for two. One for you, Amanda. How would it feel different as a customer of a great brand in 5 years' time?
I don't actually think it will feel different. I think as a customer, you know what a great brand experience is. I think what will likely feel different is the timeliness with which you can get information, the ability to update your shipping. You know, we've all done this, or at least I do it enough to where I should be better at it, but you've ordered something, you accidentally sent it to the wrong address, you need to change it, and it becomes this very frustrating cycle. Things like that should be dramatically changed. Your ability to find products is going to change, but the experience that you have with a brand that you love, getting a product that you're excited about, it exceeds your expectations and you want to tell your friends about it, that part should not change.
Great. Something that's not changing in the next 5 years, that has to be good news.
Now, yeah.
And Fred, one final question for you. If there's one action you'd recommend for companies looking to earn growth by building better customer relationships, what would it be?
I would, if I were a marketer, I would make sure that my KPIs were changed. Because right now I'm being evaluated on how well I gather ephemerals, and I need to shift that to how well I plant and cultivate perennials. And that latter one, that earned growth, has so much financial upside that you can share in the value creation and make marketing back into a highly compensated, highly respected career path.
Fabulous.
And if I can just tag on to that.
Please.
Sorry, I keep jumping in. I have to make up for the 20 minutes I wasn't here. And what Fred just said is absolutely right. And the reaction a lot of marketers probably will have is, I can't change my KPIs. And I would challenge you and say you absolutely can. If you can build a good story, if you can put the data behind it, and you can work with particularly the finance team on testing and validating the hypothesis, you absolutely can change your KPIs and should.
Great. That's a lovely note to end it on. Fred, Amanda, Darren, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and expertise today. And to everyone who joined in the audience, thank you for joining. We look forward to seeing you again soon.